What's up guys, today's video is on the top 5 best MP3 players in 2023. Through extensive research and testing, I've put together a list of options that'll meet the needs of different types of buyers. So whether it's price, performance, or its particular use, we've got you covered. For more information on the products, I've included links in the description box down below, which are updated for the best prices. Like the video, comment and don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get started. Number 5 SanDisk Clip Jam. Convenience and portability are two of the main aims of the SanDisk Clip Sport. Its footprint is smaller than an iPad Nanos, and it is almost completely free of gimmicks. There's no touchscreen operation, no weak internal speaker, no Bluetooth or NFC. A no-nonsense approach is something that might be considered a side effect of being made by a company that doesn't need to make music players that stand out. It offers a cheaper, mostly reliable alternatives to Apple's players. That's it, the SanDisk Clip Sport is an all-plastic player with 6 clicky buttons on its front and a volume rocker on the side. It feels fairly well made, although nowhere near the level of the simpler, metal iPod Shuffle. It's a little bit slimmer than the Zip Clip we reviewed 2 years ago, but otherwise they're very similar. There's a chunky belt clip on the back and an exposed microSD slot on the right edge. There's no worrying flexing, but the plastic screen cover is likely to get scratched fairly quickly if you're not careful. Although SanDisk labels the Clip Sport as an MP3 player for active types, there are just two features behind this. One is obvious, the belt clip. The other is a pretty basic pair of sport apps. You get a timer and a stopwatch. These were present in the Clip Zip 2, pretty much confirming that this player has only been conspicuously labeled a sport gadget to aid sales and marketing. It's the same as the other Clip players really, aside from the buttons. A lead hardware feature is the SanDisk Clip Sport screen. Number 4 Mighty Vibe Music Player. Mighty is an iPod Shuffle for the streaming generation. Millennials, Gen Zers, Bieberinos, those kind of folk. To look at it, though, it's a bit more SanDisk thank Apple, a chunky square of plastic with a belt clip on the back. The later generations of iPod Shuffle are really rather lovely little rectangles of aluminium, an iconic design. This isn't one. I say that as a die-hard iPod Classic fan who derided the Shuffle for years too. Mighty effectively becomes one of your offline streaming devices. You can sync songs to it and play them without internet access. To do this you need a phone, and you need Wi-Fi. Install the Mighty app on your mobile and it teaches the player your home Wi-Fi network login and gives it access to your Spotify account. You then, once again in the app, choose the Spotify playlists you want to have beamed over to the player. The little guy then uses its very own Wi-Fi connection to download the tracks. That's right, it has both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth inside its little shell. You can't even restart a track without jumping between them, like a kid on some tiny stepping stones in a river. It's also a shame there's no way to get the robot playlist prompter to read out the artist and track name you're listening to. The first time I used it to transfer some tunes, it worked perfectly. Since then I've spent hours trying to get the little thing to connect. You'll see the wheels spinning, and nothing happens. Then, with no apparent change, it'll suddenly work. This is pretty annoying, but it is at least a fixable bug that Mighty has already acknowledged on its Kickstarter page. What's more of a long-term concern is battery life. Mighty Audio says you should get 5 hours of playback, which already isn't great when the iPod Shuffle lasts 15 hours and the 25-pound SanDisk Clip Jam 18 hours. But in my experience it's currently worse than that. For example, after not more than 90 minutes of music to take the edge off a trip around IKEA, I checked the battery to find that the Mighty only had 57% charge left. It's likely that the Mighty continues using a bit of charge even when it's not playing, because the wording of the battery claims is 5 hours of continuous playback. Number 3 SanDisk Clip Sport Plus. Or several stacks of dimes, anyway. The SanDisk Sansa Clip Plus is very similar to its predecessor in design, which means you still get an ultra-compact shape, 2.1 inches tall by 1.3 wide by 0.4 inch thick, a lightweight, 0.9 ounce, and a super handy built-in belt clip on the back of the device. That said, there are some notable though very minor differences between the physical aspects of the Clip Plus and its predecessor. First, the player's control pad is square rather than circular, though it is the same 5-way configuration, with play/pause, track FF/RW, and a contextual menu button surrounding a center select key. Also, the dedicated volume rocker has moved from the right edge to the left, under the standard mini USB port, in order to make room for a microSD card slot. And SanDisk has eliminated the hold-and power switch, electing instead to add a power button to the top of the player and integrate hold functionality into the home key on the front. For such a small player, the SanDisk Clip Plus has an impressive array of features, even more than its predecessor, which already had plenty. The major omissions include wireless capability and support for photo and video, but in a device this size and for such a budget-friendly price, these features are not only unnecessary, but would probably cripple the overall functionality. What you do get is playback of a wide array of audio formats, including MP3, secure WMA, subscription music, WAV, FLAC, OGG, and Audible. We are a touch disappointed that SanDisk omitted AAC, but that is something that could potentially be added via a firmware updated. Number 2. FiiO M11Plus. The Plus also carries many design flourishes from the LTD, including the alluring diamond cut pattern on the rear panel and the honeycomb-shaped buttons on the sides. In addition, the M11 Plus carries over the volume touch slider from previous M11 models, and it gains a new carbon fiber weave pattern for some extra interest. It's an added touch I like. As well as that, you get the brilliant, almost, bezel-less 5.5-inch touchscreen from the M11 Plus LTD, which looks just as sharp and colorful as before. The M11 Plus uses the THX AAA 78 amp circuit, the most potent mobile amp THX manufactures, an amp that's super clean with almost inaudible background noise. FiiO used it to significant effect in the LTD, and it's the same in the new model. In addition, there are 2 amp chips to allow for fully balanced operation. Along with the THX circuitry are 2 ESS ES9068 as DAC chips replacing the out-of-production AKM chips in the LTD model. I have to say, while I like the smoothness of the AKM sound in the LTD, the ESS chips seem to have a little more depth and top-end detail. After listening to both in an ABA comparison, I was drawn more to the M11 Plus sound. Number 1. Sony NW-A306 Walkman. Yes, there are some very good sounding smartphones out there. But if you want the best mobile listening experience possible, you want a dedicated high-resolution digital audio player. These are often known colloquially as some of the best MP3 players, despite the fact that their talents go way beyond lossy compressed audio now. Trouble is, said high-res players tend to be big and pricey, relatively speaking, which can limit their appeal. No such drawbacks apply to the Sony NW-A306. It's small and light, despite the robust nature of its construction, and is priced to compete with the less well-known brands at the market's entry level rather than the bigger hitters like FiiO and Estelle and Kern. It's not short of features or functionality though, and when listening to some high-res audio content through some appropriately talented headphones, there's an awful lot to enjoy about the way the NW-A306 sounds. Its talents are much less apparent when listening to less information-rich files, mind you, so you'll need to be prepared to fill its, rather limited, internal memory with high-res stuff if you want to hear what it's truly capable of. Thank you for watching this video. Do like and subscribe.